Are you a veteran or an active duty member looking to buy a home? VA loans could be the answer you've been searching for. In this video, we'll break down all the facts and answer all you need to know about VA loans and amazing benefits they offer. And stay tuned until the end to find out the strategies that I have personally used for myself and my clients. My name is Michael Valencia with Lauderdale Realty. This is Living in South Florida. And if you get any value from this video, please hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the bell for notifications. Hey, Mike and Dan, I was told I can only use the VA loan one time. Is that true?
Absolutely not. You can use it as many times as long as you have the eligibility. Mike, how many times have you done a VA loan?
All right, so I have personally used the VA loan 4 times now, and I currently have 2 properties with a VA loan. So that is absolutely not true.
So you can have, not only can you have more than one VA loan throughout your lifetime, but you can have more than one simultaneously?
Absolutely.
What is the caveat?
There's a whole formula to it, and you can reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to go over your scenarios because there's an infinite amount of scenarios we can get into, but each one is separate, and I just hit the hustle sign. So
don't knock the hustle.
Yeah, right. Hey, Dan, what is the max loan amount that you can buy with a VA loan?
There's actually no limit.
What?
So I think it was like the Blackwater, Blue Water. Please don't quote me. It's been a while. But there was a bill that passed that said there is no longer any sort of limit on the amount that the VA will guarantee, because that's really what it is. It's how much is the VA willing to guarantee on someone's ability to pay back their debt, right? The veteran ability to pay back the loan. And so most banks will have an internal guideline of to like $2 to $3 million. So yes, it's true. You can buy a $3 million house with 0 down payment as long as you qualify. There are little extra requirements. You do have to make sure you have 100% full eligibility. You can't own any other homes that at one point had a VA loan. So if you do want to learn more, reach out to Mike. He's got the team and he knows where to get the answers.
Man, that's why you got to reach out to the close team at CMG Loans. They know their stuff. All right. Another question that we get asked frequently. I have a home with a VA loan. Can I purchase another home?
Absolutely. It all depends.
Well, I have personally done it. I own a house in Puerto Rico that I purchased for $265,000. I have plenty of money left over in my eligibility, and that allowed me to purchase another property down here in South Florida. So
how do you do the math on that? Is it hard?
It is pretty hard. And there's an infinite amount of scenarios that we can get into. So if you have any questions about how you want to run these numbers and figure out whether this can work for you, reach out to one of us. All the information is going to be in the description below.
Hey, Mike, what does the VA say about buying investment properties with your VA loan? Is that possible?
It is possible, asterisk, because you're not supposed to use the VA loan for investment purposes. The VA does want people to move into these properties. But you can buy a multifamily. You can buy up to 4 units. 2, 3, and 4 units are still considered residential. Anything above 4 units will be considered commercial. Now, here's another cool thing about it. If you have a family member, like a brother, a cousin in the service, you're stationed near each other, or a really good friend that you trust, right? You can go in together. You can put your eligibility together, and you can buy basically a commercial property. You can buy up to 6 units with commercial on the bottom. So a lot of times you'll see you have a convenience store downstairs, and then you have,
what are some metro areas where you see a lot of that in?
You can see that
markets.
You can see that actually down here in South Florida.
Okay.
I do know a few properties down here in South Florida that would qualify for something like that. Probably New Jersey. You can probably find it around the Maryland, Virginia area as well. So there's definitely a lot of markets where you can find that type of stuff.
So if you're looking for multifamily investment opportunities, but you have to live in it, especially in South Florida, Mike's your guy to reach out to.
Absolutely. All right, I got one for you.
Go.
Hey, Mike and Dan, is it true that I don't have to pay any closing cost?
Absolutely not. I wish, but there is sometimes a way. VA loans, there's going to be a closing cost no matter what. As a veteran, as long as you qualify, you do not have to put down a down payment. The VA is willing to guarantee your ability to pay back that loan, but there are always going to be closing costs. Back in the crazy days, you could finance your closing costs, the commissions, the taxes, but then what ended up happening is it screwed up our whole market. We saw what happened in 08, right?
Absolutely.
So closing costs do have to come out of pocket, but Mike, what are some things you've done recently to help your veterans close on a home with little to no money or just less money in general at closing?
So there are a lot of strategies that I can use. I'm not going to go into the fine detail, but one of the in basic terms, what I do is I negotiate with the seller for the seller to pay my buyer's closing costs. If not all of them, part of them. You can also speak with the lender to say, can I maybe get some points towards my closing costs? So instead of paying, you can basically pay an eighth of a point.
So while you have to pay the closing cost,
yeah,
there are ways to have the property, as long as the valuation is there, kind of cover, whether it's through the loan incentive or the seller, instead of lowering the price, maybe they just keep the price the same and they offer an incentive like a 2 or 3 or 1% credit.
Most of the time, if you get up to 3%, it'll cover most of the closing costs.
And if you can get that extra, then you can use that to buy your rate down.
That's
right.
also
So
true,
make your home more affordable and not having to worry about a refinance in the future. Get with Mike. He knows how to negotiate. That's what he's here for, to get the most for you from the seller. And if you are a seller, how to make sure you keep the most.
Absolutely. When it comes to my sellers, man, it's all about protecting you and your assets and your future.
Mike, talking about offers, what are some of the problems you've seen or hear about with trying to get an offer accepted as a VA loan down here?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, all right. So in good old beginning of 2022, when we still had lower rates and the sellers were receiving multiple offers, it was extremely difficult to negotiate a VA loan to get accepted. So one of the things that I did to be able to get ahead of everyone else is I started educating the other agents, and I started explaining to them how the VA loan is such a low risk product for the bank that it is almost a guaranteed sell, right? As long as the lender does his homework in the very beginning and pre-approves and pre-qualifies the buyer, there should be absolutely no problem with the sale going through. All right. So how I get the offers accepted is basically by creating a good rapport with the listing agent, educating them on the benefits of the VA loan, educating them on how it is a low risk product for the bank and how well qualified these VA buyers are.
Mike, why would you say most agents have some form of like ulterior, or I don't even know if that's the right word, but just misunderstanding of the VA loan, right?
I mean, when you hear 100% financing, the first thing, and I've had them flat out say this, why is it 100% financing? They don't have any money for a down payment?
Education, it sounds like, huh?
It's
so they really just don't know how it works.
It's education. So the cool thing is this, and I've told this story many times. If you're working with a VA buyer, and I'm well experienced because I have, like I said before, I've used the VA loan multiple times myself, and I know all the ins and outs of it. Plus, I've done over 100 deals, and the majority of them have been VA buyers. So I educate the agents on how the process works. And by the time it's all said and done, the other agents are so satisfied with, or so content with the way that the entire transaction went down, that they now are inclined to work with VA buyers.
So, Mike, what you just said was very important. There is a lack of education in this market. Not to say everybody doesn't know what they're talking about, but it's very true. We don't have as much of a veteran workforce in our market, South Florida, as we do maybe like Tampa or Orlando or Melbourne, Jacksonville area, right? So it is very important that the agent that you are placing the offer in understands the VA loan and gets rid of those common myths and misconceptions about the process, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that you go out of your way to explain that to the other agent while you handing your offer, that goes above and beyond. And not only do you do that, but you call in the lender, right? You say, hey, not only am I explaining this to you, but here's also the lender sharing the same exact thing.
Yeah.
And you said you found that agents are now more willing. So everywhere you're going, you're leaving this impact of
Absolutely.
Of
it's more than ever before. So I got my license in 2015, and more than ever before, agents are more willing to work with VA loans. When I got started, almost every agent that I spoke to down here, they'd never heard of the VA loan. They've never worked with anyone that's done the VA loan. It was like a myth, right? And even before I got my license, when I got here in 2015, and I started working with a realtor on buying my house, the realtor took me to her preferred lender, and they were both telling me that I couldn't use the VA loan again because I bought property in my previous unit. And I was like, no, I personally know friends that own properties around the country. So I know for a fact that I can buy another one. So from there on, that's where I was like, you know what, I'm going to get my license. I'm going to give people a service that I never received.
Awesome.
And
what a great story.
And that's when I started going around, and when I started presenting the offers to the agents and they didn't know about it, I said, okay, let's talk about it. What questions do you have? Even if you don't accept my offer, I want to answer any questions that you have.
Mike, what are some of the common myths you get when you are confronting an agent that's questioning the fact that your buyer's offer is coming in with an offer at 100% financing, or the fact that it's just a VA loan as well? In general, what are their typical concerns that you see in this market?
The typical concerns is they're worried about the appraisal, right? That's the number one.
They just assume that the appraisal is going to come in low?
Every single time. They assume that the appraisal is going to come
What do you do? Do you just ask them? And they like,
yeah.
Why do you think? And what do they say?
I flat out tell them, and I don't come from an aggressive point of view. No. I just ask out of curiosity. And listen, we don't have to work together, but just for my benefit and knowledge, can you please tell me why you are having doubts about this offer? Oh, I heard these things about the VA loan, like such as the appraisal. Okay, well, do you know that the VA loan is one of the only products that you can actually rebuttal the appraisal? And the rebuttal doesn't necessarily go back to the appraiser. It goes to the Department of the VA. And the Department of VA are the ones that are going to review what the realtors put together for them to justify an increase on the appraised value. And I have successfully done that multiple times this year. Justin.
So you're saying if you're placing an offer and there seems to be an issue with the appraisal, not only will your lender help you, but as the buyer, you're going to assist because you believed in the price of the home. You wouldn't have helped make that offer if you didn't believe that was an honest offer, an honest valuation.
Absolutely.
So you're saying, hey, listing agent, if there is an issue with this appraised value, not only can we rebut it, but I will help you and my lender will help you prove that case because we believe in the valuation.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah.
And so you ask, I guess, do you believe in the valuation?
Oh, yeah.
Do you believe at the price you listed at?
Yeah. But that's the thing. Even if they do, they still have that misconception from the loan or from the appraiser that it's going to be undervalued. So that's fine. You can have that all day long. It is a risk at the end of the day, right? But there is a solution for that problem. And again, I have successfully done it multiple times. It's not just a one-time thing. Multiple times have we been able to increase the value of the appraisal.
Wow, especially in the last couple of years market, it was pretty wild the way prices were moving. Mike, what's another question or misconception or common myth you come across when dealing with agents accepting your offer for VA buyers?
Are they going to be able to close it in 30 days?
Wow, so they assume that the VA loan is a longer process?
Yeah.
Wow. And what have you found with your success?
With the close team at CMG Loans, we have successfully closed deals in as little as 2 weeks.
Wow. Wow, the appraisal turn time is 2 weeks. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. But if you get on the contract, you order the appraisal right away, you do the inspection, the buyer is on it and submitting all the paperwork that the lender is requesting. So where do you think that misconception comes from, the fact that a VA loan takes a little bit longer? Probably because they think it's a federally backed loan. Or maybe they think, Navy Federal has the best rates, and when you deal with it, that's really slow. True. That's a good point. Yeah. Navy Federal, USAA. So those are some of the top lending, VA loan lenders in the country, right? Yeah. They're very tied in with the VA, the veterans in this country. And so what happens when you get a loan from one of those big box, right? Is that what you think? Those turn times are what really kind of give out that conception of how long it takes? It's a typical 9 to 5 workday. There's a 1-800 number that you call. You can't just call somebody's cell phone and say, hey, what's going on with this deal? So if the department is closed for the day or it's a holiday weekend, it's a 3-day weekend, you're not going to be able to reach anyone. So that will definitely prolong the process. If you can't get a hold of someone, you can't get answers, you have to wait for an email response. So yeah. Yeah, and there's nobody to really I always fear of a review when I'm doing my job. It's like, the last thing I want is a bad review, but the only thing I'm ever focused on is a 5-star review. And so the fact that somebody can just hide behind a Navy Federal credit union or whatever and just leave a bad review, you're one of thousands, right? There's a real big, my reputation is our that's where we make our money, right? Absolutely. And so I always think that when people are concerned, what's the difference between you and them is like, listen, you leave me a bad review, I lose money for the rest of my career, right? Yeah. I will miss out on opportunity because of that. And so my goal is every single one has to be 5 stars. I agree. Yep. I agree with that 100%.
Can you imagine working with a Walmart of realtors? Like, you don't do that, right? Why would you do that with the one that's taking care of your financing? So back to the big box lenders, Mike, the Navies, all those guys, what are you seeing as rates? Why do people use them? The concept is, oh, they're the best. They have to be the best.
Great question, Dan. The biggest thing is once you log onto their website, it'll tell you, here are today's rates, right?
Okay, what do you see there?
You usually see some of the best rates out there. But in the fine print, it says these rates are for people with this type of credit score and above, and with 1.5 points, or
and 20%.
Yeah, and 20% down payment. So those rates are not what you're really going to get. That's just what they're advertising to get you to look at the shiny object. Once you actually submit your application and you talk to whatever loan officer, they'll tell you, hey, the rate that we can actually offer you based on your credit and based on your down payment, if you're even putting one, it turns out to be higher than that. The cool thing is, working with these guys, with close team at CMG, they've almost every single time have been able to match or beat whatever Veterans United, Navy Federal have been throwing out there.
Awesome. So better rates or the same, but way better service.
That's the most important thing, the service. Being able to reach someone when you call the phone is it's amazing. It's
sometimes
huge.
It's the only reason why an offer gets accepted, right? Calling, hey, I am aware, Mike just put an offer in for our mutual client, Joe, and I just want to introduce myself, share my my contact information with you so you have it. If you have any questions, any of your sellers have any questions, these buyers are 100% fully underwritten, ready to go, and there's really nothing stopping this loan except for the appraisal or some sort of an encumbered lien on the property, because we did our work and this offer is as good as cash.
Absolutely.
Right?
All right, I got another question that is frequently asked here. What are the closing costs and how much are they?
Closing costs depends on where you're at. You're talking about property taxes, insurance. You're starting up your escrow, then you have your taxes, title. As far as just like when you register a car or get titled, there's always some sort of government fees with it. And I'd say around a good estimate is around 3 to 4%, depending if you want to buy down a rate. 3 to 3.5 kind of being your typical. So
that's the exact number that I give my buyers.
Perfect.
Whatever
so you take
purchase price.
Yep.
Whatever purchase price, 3 to 3.5% is typically what you can expect in closing costs.
It's a great estimate, and again, not all of it is cost. Most of it is, at least a third to half of it can be is really setting up your escrow account. Something you're going to pay. We're just collecting it for you now.
Dan, the VA does an inspection, right?
The VA does not do a separate inspection. They're just part of the appraisal process, right? The only thing different between a VA appraisal and a conventional is just the fact that you can't have exposed wiring. You can't have open holes in the wall. The house needs to be move-in ready. If you were in the colder areas, then there need to be a heat source, and all of the appliances need to be in place. There's ways around that, as long as your lender, your realtor is aware of how to do that. Hey, have the seller buy a washer, make sure there's a dishwasher in the dishwasher hole. That's really the only standard. But if you're buying your typical standard house, there's not going to be an issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've never seen an appraiser go in there and really start inspecting everything electrical and pulling on light switches or lamps or anything like that. Mike and Dan, do I need to contact the VA to get pre-approved?
Ooh, good question. No. You will need to grab your certificate of eligibility, which we can order or you can grab on your own. We're going to have to order one on our own anyway to verify it was one that we received. But you do not have to contact the VA to get your loan. They do not administer loans. They will have a question hotline. You contact a lender that has a VA endorsement. Typically, every mortgage lender has that. So get with a lender. They're the ones that are going to be writing your loan. The VA does not fund the loans. All the VA does, thankfully, is guarantee the loan. They are the insurance policy for you buying a home with zero down payment and at competitive rates.
All right, so let me add a little something to that. For anybody watching who is thinking about using VA loan or is wondering why would I want to use a VA loan when it's 100% financing, isn't this going to cost me more in the long run? The answer is no. The reason is it's a low risk product for the bank. Like he just said, it is guaranteed by the Department of VA. So if the VA is going to guarantee this product, it is a low risk product for the lender. That's why they offer you the best rates out there above. Most of the time, I rarely see the conventional FHA, DSCR offering better rates than the VA, right?
There's nothing better than a VA loan.
Absolutely. And with 100% financing, there is no PMI. So the private mortgage insurance that you pay anytime you put less than 20% down payment on a conventional FHA, I think that PMI is for life. It never goes away. For the VA loan, there is no PMI with 100% financing because of that guarantee from the VA.
Mike and Dan, there are fees associated with the VA loan. What is it? What kind of fees are there with the VA loan?
So on top of the closing costs that we talked about, the 3 to 3.5%, you have the funding fee. And there's also another formula for that. If it's your first time use and you're putting less than 5% down payment, it is 2.15%. If you're using it as any subsequent use after that with less than 5% down payment, it is 3.3%.
Mike and Dan, the VA funding fee, anywhere from 0 to 3.3%. Is that something I pay out of pocket?
No, you can if you want to, but that is the only part of your closing costs that you're going to be able to add to the loan amount.
So it is financed in.
It is financed in.
Okay. So 3.3% is for what? A subsequent use?
Yeah, 3.3% is any time that you are not putting a 5% down payment. So a 5% down payment or less, you will pay as 3.3%.
If it's your first time use or if it's your subsequent
use.
Okay, so if you've used a VA loan more than once or at least once in the past and you're putting less than 5% down, they're going to add an additional 3.3% of the loan amount towards your, in addition, they're going to add that to your loan amount.
Yeah.
All right, so that is if you're using it more than one. If you're using it after your first time, I've heard some guys not have to pay it at all or maybe get it refunded. How does that work?
I think the laws recently changed where if you're a Purple Heart recipient, you no longer have to pay the VA funding fee. And if you're a disabled veteran, so if you have any
funding fee exempt.
Yeah, if you have some disability, I'm not sure if it's up to 100%, so I got to look into that a little bit more. But you do.
It's a minimum of 10, so typically the minimum's 10s anyway. So as long as you have any form of, that's what we say.
Oh, so there you go. Dan's got the answer right there. If there's anything we missed, don't be shy. Comment below. Let us know what you're thinking. If you're enjoying the content, stay tuned for more.